David, you want to talk about some conspiracy theories?
I'm always down to talk about conspiracy theories. For those of you who aren't aware, who may be just joining us, I'm an avid follower of all things conspiracy theory, and I'm the type of person who thinks Alex Jones is a national treasure. And, Justin here, he loves a good conspiracy theory, too.
Yes, I do.
So, let's just dive right into it. You got any particular ones on your mind that you want to talk about?
Well, the first one, I grew up in a rural area in Mendocino County.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of folklore going around about Bigfoot. That's a hot topic over there. I've never seen Bigfoot before, but I've seen signs.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Me and my dad, from the time I was little, and my grandpa, we used to do a lot of hunting, like pig hunting, deer hunting, turkey hunting, you name it. Quail, anything that anything that lives over there, we hunted if it was tasty. And there's been times where I was out in the woods and, this would have been Mendocino National Forest, circa 1994-ish, where, we'd stay a week over there, camp out hunting, stuff like that, get up early, go do a scout, we'd call it. So we'd scout an area, and if we didn't see any deer, we'd move on the next morning. We'd go scout a different area, stuff like that. But there's a lot of different times where when you're sitting there, sometimes you'll be watching a ridge line, waiting for, like, if my dad or one of his friends were working that ridge line on the other side, they were trying to either jump something or see if something's over there. I'd be sitting up kind of watching the whole area, and just the hair on the back of your neck would stand up like something's watching you, and you'd kind of look around, not see anything, but it was almost like your sixth sense kicked in, and never knew what it was back then. But there was one time I was kind of scouting the area, and same thing, hair on the back of my neck stood up, but it ended up being a mountain lion. It was on the next ridge over. I'd say, if you guys know what yards are, it was probably a good 200 yards away. I couldn't throw a rock at it. Let's put it that way. That was the only other time I actually saw something, an actual animal that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. But I think it was Bigfoot was stalking me.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So,
See,
or an alien, one or the other.
Bigfoot's one of those things where it's like, I've been fascinated by Bigfoot, but I guess I'm too much of a skeptic to really believe it per se. But there is some interesting stuff out there. Like, one thing that always intrigued me about Bigfoot was, I'm sure both you and most of our listeners who know who Bigfoot is are probably aware of what is considered kind of like, ground zero of supposed Bigfoot footage. It was up at I
think Trinity County.
Yeah, somewhere up there, like a logging camp or something.
Yeah, Willow Creek, I believe. Which I have a story about that too, but we'll talk about that later.
And so a guy's filming, and he happens to catch sight of something, and he moves his camera over way across where the tree line is, and over in the bush you see what looks like a large hairy creature kind of skulking away. And so what I thought was really interesting about that's basically the prime Bigfoot footage right there. And what I thought was interesting about that is if you look closely at that at the supposed creature in the video,
the cryptic.
What do they call them? Cryptids?
Yeah, cryptids.
It's got mammaries.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lady Bigfoot.
Yeah. Maybe C's, maybe little small D's.
So I always thought thought it interesting because generally there's no way that's an animal. There's no way the thing that's an animal in that video. And so generally the people who want to say it's not real, like the only real explanation you could go to is it had to have been a hoax of some kind. And in my mind, how are some random logger dudes up in Trinity County decide to make a, what looks like a gorilla costume with boobs,
And it looks real.
So that always, like, I'm definitely a skeptic when it comes to Bigfoot, but just the fact that the prime OG Bigfoot footage has got what appears to be a lady Bigfoot has always stood out to me as rather intriguing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, give me your story. I think I've heard it before, but
yeah. So this was before I was born. This would have been, I would say, the late 60s, early 70s. My mom and her parents, which are my grandma and grandpa, they lived in Willow Creek, which is a super small town in Mendocino. Or actually, no, it's in Trinity County. Sorry. It's just north of Mendocino County. And my grandpa worked for Caltrans over there, road worker, and my grandma was a stay-at-home mom. Back there, you didn't really there wasn't a lot of jobs for women back then, especially in small rural towns like that. So she stayed home with her two kids, which is my mom and my uncle. And anyways, I guess one night, this is my mom's story. One night there was like it woke my mom up. It sounded like somebody was throwing rocks at her window, like small pebbles almost, and it woke her up. Well, her room was, because their house was built off of a side of a hill almost, so half of the house was on pillars. So it was like at least 10 to 12 feet up was where the floor would be, and then you got another 4 feet to where the windows would be. And I could be totally saying this wrong. It could only be 8 or 10 feet, but either way, it's off the ground substantially. And anyways, whatever woke my mom up, she got up and looked out the window, and it was a bright moon night. I wouldn't call it a full moon, but she said it was bright. And there was this thing, she thought it was a bear, was looking into her window, and it had been throwing pebbles or throwing rocks. And as far as I know, bears don't throw things, like, besides maybe their own feces or something. But either way, she thought it was a bear. She told my grandpa and everything. She woke him up because she was little. I think she was 5 or something like that, 6 or something at the time. But either way, they kind of didn't tell anybody because, the Bigfoot thing was going around. They didn't want to, have people think that they were crazy or anything. Anyways, I hear this story like this was years ago as a young adult, and I go, holy cow, my mom saw Bigfoot, because I don't know any bears, especially that are in Trinity County. They don't have big grizzly bears or anything. It's all just small little black bears. And as far as I know, there ain't no black bears that are, 10 to 12 feet tall that would throw pebbles to wake, anyways. My conspiracy is that my mom saw Bigfoot, and even to this day, she's like, it was just a big bear or whatever. But I'm like, no, it wasn't. That was Bigfoot. So, and I wasn't there. So I believe my mother saw Bigfoot, but she just denies it.
So she doesn't believe it.
I think she knows what she saw, but she doesn't, because so many people were calling all the people that had sightings, they were calling them crazy. Kind of the same with the alien people, Oh, I saw aliens. They call them crazy lunatics. So I think that's what scared her from actually coming out and saying, I think that was Bigfoot, but it was dark. She said the moon, it was enough light from the moon to where she could see that it looked like a hairy creature, but the only thing she knew of that was out there was a bear. So that's what she resorted to because she didn't want to be called crazy.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, that's my little story of Trinity County Bigfoot sightings. Or if you want to go by the Squatch sighting.